You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Friday, 6th day of March, 2026. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The first broadcast is our live training room. That one's reserved for members only and those taking their 1-week free trial. If you have not taken your 1-week free trial, when Michael joins us in about an hour, he'll walk you through the simple steps to get signed up for the trial. We'll get your indicators up and indicating today. You'll have the weekend to kind of get familiar with the indicators. Your trial will officially start Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's when we go to work. And your trial will run all the way through next Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. Now, yes, you do gain access to the live training room, but you also gain access to everything else we do the other 22 hours of the day. We work a long week. We start Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern and work literally around the clock all the way up until Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. During your trial, we're going to treat you like you were already a member, a bona fide passport holder, and there's no credit card required. We want you focused on what's being taught so that at the end of your trial, you can make a well-informed, intelligent decision as to whether or not trading is right for you. So again, stick around to the top of the hour, roughly 1 p.m. Eastern, and Michael will walk you through the steps. It'll take about 3 minutes of your time to get signed up, and then we'll be able to get your indicators up and indicating today. Now, when the live training room ends each morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, we take a 30-minute break and come back for this broadcast, the noon broadcast, which is open to the public. That's everybody everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast live. The best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down the page to where it says Noon Broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What'll happen going forward is every trading day, you'll get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. In the email, there will be a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you have to do is click the link in the email, and it automatically logs you into our platform. The benefit of doing it that way is you immediately have access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there will be days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, but you still want to join live. And there'll be days when you're busy, so you can't join live, but you want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, but we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 2,900 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And if you're new to our neck of the woods, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. Thanks to the power of YouTube, you can scroll back 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, even more. Now, obviously, you're not going to watch them all, and you don't need to. But it's a great resource to have at your fingertips, because you can see how we've evolved over all these years, day by day by day. youtube.com/CFRN. On the left side of the screen, you'll see our schedule for each afternoon broadcast. About 1 p.m. Eastern, Michael will join us for a recap of what happened this morning in the live training room, and then a little live trading as time and the markets permit. But right now, we'll jump into our daily devotional, which is where we start each and every afternoon broadcast. The topic that we're on right now, God, where are you? We're about day 10. This is a 30-day devotional. Today's scripture is Daniel 6, verses 25 through 27. And I'm going to share it from the NIV translation. Then King Darius wrote to all the nations and peoples of every language in all the earth, may you prosper greatly. I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom, people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. And again, that was Daniel 6, verses 25 through 27. What does it take to maintain faith in a hostile environment? Daniel discovered the answer when he was forced to serve in history's most pagan empire. Captured as a teenager during the fall of Jerusalem, Daniel was handpicked for royal service in Babylon due to his intelligence and appearance. The pressure to assimilate was immense. New name, new culture, new expectations. Everything about Babylonian society demanded he abandon his Jewish faith and embrace their pagan worldview. Daniel chose a different path. He quietly resisted through small acts of faithfulness, refusing royal food that violated Jewish law, maintaining his prayer life despite danger, and pursuing excellence in his work while honoring God. Daniel proved you could be faithful in Babylon without withdrawing from it. When King Nebuchadnezzar had a troubling dream that stumped all his wise men, Daniel faced a crisis. The king threatened to execute every advisor who couldn't interpret it. And instead of panicking, Daniel did what he always did. He prayed. Daniel returned to his house and explained the matter to his friends. They pleaded for mercy from the God of heaven. Daniel 2:17. God revealed both dream and interpretation to Daniel, who immediately gave credit where it belonged in Daniel 2:27. We read, "No wise man, enchanter, magician, or diviner can explain to the king the mystery he has asked about. But there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries." Daniel's integrity became his greatest evangelistic tool. When he refused to stop praying despite a royal decree and survived the lion's den, even pagan King Darius was transformed. In Daniel 6:26 we read, "I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel, for he is the living God." Daniel's strategy was one we can all learn from. Outstanding performance in his secular role, unquestionable integrity, and consistently pointing glory to God rather than himself. His influence came through faithful service, not confrontational preaching. Through one faithful man, God's reputation spread throughout the empire. Your workplace, school, or community may feel like Babylon, hostile to faith, pressuring you to compromise. Daniel's example shows that faithfulness in small things opens doors for God to do extraordinary things through ordinary people. Sometimes the most powerful sermons are lived, not preached. God can use your faithfulness and love for the Word to reach the unreachable. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, you are the living God, whose kingdom will never be destroyed. You rescue, you save, and you work wonders on earth and in heaven. Help us trust in your power and live each day in reverence and faithfulness to you. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, Amen. Amen, and happy Friday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. Then we'll go to the news. Then we'll go to the charts. Starting here in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. Currently the Dow is down 645 points, almost 1.5%. The NASDAQ down 226 points, 1%. S&P 500 down 81, almost 1.25%. The Russell 2000 down 52 points, just over 2%. In the commodity basket, crude oil up $9.23, trading 90.18 last. That's a gain of over 11%. Gold up $62.50, trading 51.4120 last. That's a gain of 1.25%. Silver up $1.75, trading 83.91 last. That's a gain of a little over 2%. In the Asian markets at the close, the Nikkei gained 342 points. Shanghai gained 15. The Hang Seng gained 435. That's a gain of almost 1.75%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 129, 1.25%. The DAX down 224 points, almost 1%. And the CAC down 52. So we had a green day in Asia. It was a red day for the UK. And at the moment, it is a big red radio Friday here in the US of A. And once we get through the news and get to the charts, I got some interesting things to point out to you. Well, President Trump fired Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem yesterday, marking the first cabinet secretary to depart during his second term. He in turn nominated Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, Republican from Oklahoma, to replace her. The decision followed a congressional hearing in which senators from both parties urged Noem to resign. Lawmakers criticized her leadership during the Minneapolis immigration crackdown, her delay in distributing disaster funds, and her management of federal funds, including the allocation of roughly $220 million to an advertising campaign. Trump said Noem will shift to a newly created role, which I think was kind of him, Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas, focused on Western Hemisphere security. Under federal vacancy rules, Mullen can serve as acting DHS Secretary while his nomination is pending in the Senate, which remains deadlocked over DHS funding, pushing the department's shutdown into a fourth week. If confirmed, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt would appoint an interim replacement for Mullen's Senate seat until a special election can be held. One of the things, or one of the accusations left out of this article was Secretary Noem's infidelity with Corey Lewandowski. Don't know if it's true. The commercial, it's a lot to spend on a commercial. I'm sure you've seen it. It ends with her on horseback with the big cowboy hat in front of what appears to me to be a backdrop of Mount Rushmore. I don't think she's actually on the horse in front of Mount Rushmore. The next time you see, well, I don't know if you'll ever see the commercial again. I guess you can go on YouTube and see it. It looks, I don't know. You make your decision. Or if you've already seen it, maybe you already have. Regardless, $220 million, that's a lot for a commercial. She did state during the congressional hearing that President Trump authorized it, and President Trump said he did not. So, moving on. Chickpeas may be able to grow on the moon. Texas scientists revealed in a scientific report study yesterday, a study which paves the way for further research on lunar agriculture and may have implications for astronauts' ability to spend longer stretches of time in space. In 2022, researchers demonstrated plants could grow in lunar soil using samples from Apollo 11, 12, and 17. However, the plants, a relative of mustard greens, showed signs of stress and absorbed high levels of heavy metals. This time, biologists conducted a similar experiment using materials from Earth simulated to mimic lunar soil. They dusted chickpeas with powdered arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, helping the plant's roots spread out and reduce the absorption of iron, aluminum, zinc, and copper. Some soil samples were also treated with fertilizer from red wiggler worms. In each case, chickpeas treated with fungi powder lived 2 weeks longer or more on average. Given the fact that we had to sort of cheat on this last test, I'm really not sure just how impactful it is, but we'll see. China set a 2026 economic growth target of 4.5% to 5% at its annual two-sessions meeting, the lowest since the early 1990s and the first cut since 2023's shift to around 5%, as Beijing faces persistent deflation and U.S. trade tensions. Now, obviously, China does not open up their financials to the world. So if they tell us their economy grew at 50% last year, well, we're supposed to just believe it. I think the problem has gotten so grave that they just really can't cover it up anymore. Officials say the target allows room for reforms and weak consumer spending, a property slump, a shrinking population, and an energy shortage, exacerbated by U.S. actions in Iran and Venezuela. China's economy grew 5% in 2025, according to China, but slowed to 4.5% in the final quarter. Exports, which produced a $1.2 trillion surplus last year, have become a growth driver for the country, even as President Trump's tariffs weigh on the economy. I'm amazed at the world's insatiable desire for cheap plastic crap. But it is what it is. Draft outlines for the 15th five-year plan covering 2026 through 2030 emphasize innovation, high-tech industries, scientific research, and stronger household consumption. Chinese officials say boosting domestic demand will remain a top priority this year as they try to reduce the economy's reliance on external demand. Well, they certainly have the people. The problem is the people don't have any money. Turning to Wall Street. From Bloomberg, U.S. President Trump demanded Iran surrender as the war on the Islamic Republic raged for a seventh day, with the impact reverberating across global supply chains and energy markets. Washington doesn't want to negotiate an end to the conflict and will only accept an unconditional surrender. Trump wrote this today on Truth Social. Brent crude hit $90 a barrel for the first time in almost 2 years, with shipping through the Strait of Hormuz at a near total halt and energy exporters scrambling for routes out of the region. Danish container giant AP Moller-Maersk suspended 2 services spanning the Far East to Europe due to security risk. Qatar warned that a protracted war could bring down the economies of the world, predicting that all Gulf energy exporters would shut down production within weeks. This report came from the Financial Times today, citing an interview with the country's energy minister. The Wall Street Journal reported that Kuwait has begun cutting production at some oil fields after running out of places to store bottled up crude, the latest sign of a hit to supply in the region. A global bond rout continued unabated as concerns mount among traders that climbing energy prices will force central banks to slow their pace of rate cuts. The dollar is rising the most on a weekly basis since 2024. Emerging markets have been a sell-off of their assets. Turkey has spent $12 billion, equal to roughly 15% of its foreign currency reserves, to keep the lira stable this week. Iran fired a barrage of missiles and drones targeting a number of Gulf countries overnight and into this morning, with particularly powerful blasts hurting Kuwait. Bahrain also attacked. Missile alerts were sent to residents in Dubai for the second day running. We have entered phase 2. A U.S. sanctioned tanker blacklisted for handling Iranian liquefied petroleum gas crossed the Strait of Hormuz on Friday, one of only a handful of vessels to make it through the waterway in recent days. And that little bit of water there is where 20% of the world's energy flows. The Danuta 1, a gas supertanker sailing under the flag of Palau, transited the strait in the early hours of Friday morning local time, according to ship tracking data compiled by Bloomberg. The vessel has picked up a cargo from within the Persian Gulf, as seen from a draft increase. As the very large gas carrier was sailing inside the Gulf and later through the strait, its signaling pattern was inconsistent and haphazard at times, suggesting it turned off its transponders or issued inaccurate positioning signals to hide its path. Signal jamming, which is rampant in the region, may have contributed to this. U.S. stocks opened lower today, with the major indexes on track for weekly losses, as weaker than expected jobs data added to concerns rippling through markets. Last time I looked at the daily chart, we had taken out the Tuesday low, and I'll be showing that to you in a few moments. At one point, I guess that I was down 676 points at the time of this writing, or almost 1.5%. Oil prices continued to climb. Remember, analysts over the last weekend were predicting $100 a barrel. But on Monday, we saw crude trading in the $70 range as if nothing had really happened. But as the week has progressed, we've seen crude get some wind beneath its wings. From Reuters, officials and executives in Guangdong, China's southern manufacturing and tech hub, vowed today to expand artificial intelligence across its $2 trillion economy, a day after Beijing launched an AI Plus strategy to embed the technology throughout the economy. They made the comment at an event discussing a new government work report and 5-year policy blueprint that for the first time puts AI-driven industrial upgrading at the center of economic growth. As a critical link in global supply chains, including smartphones, appliances, and electric vehicles, Guangdong's ability to deploy AI will also shape how far the European Union and United States can de-risk their supply chains from China amid rising geopolitical tension. And while I don't have an article for this, it was on the news this morning. So much goes on behind the scenes that we never really know anything about. But for quite some time, some of Iran's top dentists have been working with the American CIA and other countries' intelligence agencies as they fill cavities in the top Iranian officials. They implant little trackers. So if you're wondering how America and Israel knew exactly where the supreme leader was when it happened, when he was taken out, maybe that's a story you tell your children at night when they don't want to brush their teeth. Moving on. And from Reuters, Robinhood debuted its flagship $658 million venture fund on the New York Stock Exchange today, offering retail investors a rare chance to invest in high-profile, privately held technology companies. Private company investments have long been the playground of Silicon Valley's biggest venture capital firms, with retail investors largely shut out of the booming market where valuations have surged in recent years. The fund, which began trading under the ticker RVI Roger Victor Indigo, RVI, has investments in prominent private companies, including software startup Databricks, fintech Ramp, and financial services firm Revolut. There's a big gap in the market where the retail customer cannot access private assets, according to Robinhood's CFO. Some private companies now command valuations that rival or exceed the market capitalization of companies in the S&P 500. Databricks raised capital at a $134 billion valuation in February, while Ramp was valued at $32 billion in November. And these are privately held companies. Of course, the fund carries risk, including fluctuations in private company valuations, though these are not unique to it. The broader venture capital exit market has also been turbulent in recent years as IPO activity has slowed. And last, turning to Capitol Hill, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller surprised many in the MAGA movement with his definition of President Donald Trump's motto, America First. Miller told Sean Hannity, "No, America First means America will be the greatest, most unquestioned, unmatched power in the world, and it means we will defend American lives, and yes, we will avenge American blood. Iran has waged war against the American people for 47 years. Since the Shah of Iran left and the religious zealots took over." Miller said Trump has made it clear that America's awesome military might should be used to protect and defend American interests. This comes days after the United States launched Operation Epic Fury against Iran in collaboration with Israel. Not to surrender the world to our adversaries, to our enemies, to those who would do us harm, Miller added. Not to surrender the world's resources, lanes of commerce, or capacity to keep our citizens safe. Some conservative voices have said the military operation is not in line with an America First agenda, arguing that Iran did not pose a direct threat to the United States and warning of a protracted conflict. Now, well, we know that the ranking of our students in America, half of them can barely read or do simple math. But could anyone be that blind? For 47 years, we've heard death to America, death to Israel. And as Iran has stepped up their production of these ballistic missiles, the threat has become not a matter of if, but when. And anyone that doesn't see the reason for what's happening right now, I just don't understand your thinking. I really don't. And last, a culture that neglects the beautiful is a culture that will quickly become disenfranchised with the true and the good. Michelangelo was born on March 6th. I think I mentioned today is March 6th. But it was a long time ago in 1475. He was a sculptor, painter, poet, and architect who radically impacted his time period and the generations to follow. He is best known for his paintings in the Sistine Chapel of the Last Judgment and of the creation of man found on its ceiling. But his primary focus as an artist was his sculpture pieces. The life, witness, and legacy of Michelangelo ought to evoke a greater appreciation for art, but more importantly, it can offer a blueprint for how to be captivated by the true, the good, and the beautiful. Ultimately, our appreciation for truth, goodness, and beauty will be safeguarded in a worldview that respects faith in God. The more we place value on these three characteristics of existence, the more human we will become. And it's either March 17th or May 17th. I'm sorry, I don't have the article in front of me. But President Trump has designated that day as a day where he will hold a ceremony where we officially, as a nation, rededicate America to God, the one true living God, one nation under God. So I apologize for forgetting if it's the 17th of this month or the 17th of May, but I know I got the 17 part right. So a quick Google and you'll find it. But we must move on. So let's take a look at Logic 247. That's our 24/7 around the clock Emini alert service. We're currently in week 396. Over the last 396 weeks, we've issued over 21,600 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based simply on market structure and a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Now, last week, which was week 395, this is how we wrapped up last week. 52 total alerts, 8 never triggered, 44 actionable, 5 stopped out, which is 11%. So 11% stopped out last week. Now this week, so far we've issued a total of 59 alerts, 5 never triggered. When Valerie did the recap this morning at 6:30 a.m. Eastern, we were still waiting on the outcome of 11. Some of those may have resolved themselves since then. She'll finalize the recap for the week this afternoon or early evening. So with 59 alerts, 5 never triggered, and 11 waiting, it gave us 43 actionable alerts, of which 3 or 7% would have been stopped out. Again, based simply on market structure, the simple process we teach all passport holders. The logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m., 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. Every logic alert has an entry price, long or short, an initial target, in most cases additional targets, and always a final trade to target. The purpose of the logic alerts is to help you learn how to read a chart. If you never actually trade a logic alert, use them for the purpose intended, to learn to read the chart. Once you learn to read the chart, chaos becomes clarity. You know where to reasonably expect potential resistance and potential support. And you also learn to gracefully accept the fact that 20% of the time or less, the market is going to do something other than what you expected. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can buy all the indicators in the world and all the oscillators in the world. You can buy every tip sheet, every guru. The fact is, nobody, and I mean nobody, knows what's going to happen next in the market. There's too many factors. So until you accept that and stop chasing the quote-unquote holy grail, your ability to learn to consistently trade profitably, it's not going to happen. So 396 weeks is a long time. It's over 7.5 years. But many years before we introduced Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. Now they're different in a lot of different ways. But for the purpose of this discussion, I'll just say this. They don't come out around the clock. They're typically posted every evening 5 minutes ahead of the Globex Open. The Friday session we're in began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern, but 5 minutes before the markets opened. All of our traders had all of these targets: the S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. As we go through the individual charts, you'll see these targets drawn out on the chart. Just remember as you see them that our traders had that information 5 minutes before the market opened. So with that, we can go to the charts, and we'll start where we always do, with the daily chart of the S&P 500 E-mini futures. Okay, this is the Tuesday low that I mentioned earlier. Okay, now the Tuesday low I should get a pop-up here. There it pops. Boy, that's low. The low is 67.1875. 67.1875. Today's low, 67.1575. So we took it out by just a little bit, about 3 points. And now we had a bounce that took us all the way back up into this area. But the markets are heavy, and it looks like we're going to close probably pretty near the low of the session. So now we've just readjusted the fib extensions. So what happens if we close below this low? Well, then I will drag the zero line down to wherever the low is of the candle that closes us below the current zero line. And once price takes out this part right here, or this low right here, I'll probably go to reverse fibs and reverse fib extensions. Now, you've heard me talk every day about how this looks to me like a transition, a rounding top, where you go from a bull market to a bear market. Now, no one wants to see a bear market. That affects the investors, everyone with a 401k. It can get real ugly and real painful. So let's hope that something happens that changes things. But for 13 days, we have been below or touching the BBC. Price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. It's called the BBC, just stands for bull, bear, cross. And notice that the pullback to the BBC, whether it comes from above or from below, it holds more often than it doesn't. All alerts are created on the 30-minute chart. There's nothing special about 30 minutes other than it's the time frame I chose many years ago. And if it's not broke, leave it alone. The vertical line separates today, Friday. Here's yesterday, Thursday. Back here's Wednesday. The horizontal lines are the weekly trading zones. They're published every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. We've published the zones now for well over 16 years, every week for our members. When price runs up to a weekly trading zone, we expect resistance till proven otherwise. When price drops to a weekly zone, we expect support until proven otherwise. One of three things happens when price encounters a weekly zone. 70% of the time is consolidation, 20% of the time is rejection, 10% of the time is the slice. That's when a 30-minute candle slices through a zone like it's not even there. When that move runs out of steam, price will typically retrace back to the zone it sliced through and continue in the direction of the slice, just as it has done. Okay. Now, here was the open last night. We opened at 68.35 and a quarter. And by the 7 o'clock 30-minute candle, we had hit our target at 68.45. We spiked it just a little bit. Now the long target was simply based off this high right here from yesterday. It's market structure. More than enough to get your goal for the day. It only takes 2 points to get your goal for the day. Now, notice on this move up, how the step line and blue and climbing are trading parallel. Till this point right here, where the market goes into consolidation, as it does 70% of the time at a zone. Okay. When the step line crosses blue and climbing, we expect a retracement back to the BBC. Now the pullback holds more often than not. Maybe look at this move here yesterday. Okay. Hit this huge move up. And then the next one came right down. So that pullback held. Leg retracement. Because the candles are touching the BBC. You got to have a candle open and close below the BBC before you switch from bullish to bearish. And when you're bearish, in order to switch to bullish, you need a candle to open and close above the BBC without touching it. Okay? So we consolidated along the long target overnight, and then we dropped to the weekly zone at 68.06/07. That bounced us up into resistance at the black step line. That sent us back down to the zone support, which bounced us up into red and falling, which then took us all the way down to the short target. The short target based off where red turned to blue yesterday afternoon. So we hit the target support, we bounce all the way up to the zone resistance, And then along comes the 8:30 news this morning, which was ridiculous, but they expect us to believe it. So, okay, here we go. All the way down. Now, 67.20 was an important price, important area. But again, we got down to 67.15.75. Buyers came in, drove us up. Step line crossed, but we were unable to get all the way back to the BBC. So those wicks sticking up like that, that's extremely bearish. Now, when red and falling curls up like this and gets directly below price, it becomes potential support. But the black step line, which is directly above price, that becomes resistance. So right now, price is kind of trapped. We got potential resistance here, potential support here. Once we take out this low, if we do, then it should be a quick trip to here and then to here. And the lowest weekly zone, it's still on the table, 66.88/89. Now, the zones are not forecasting that we're going to hit the highest zone or we're going to hit the lowest zone. What the zones do is they create a playing field where all week our traders know where to expect potential resistance, where to look for potential support. Look at this support. It sent us. We went from zone to zone, back to the zone, back to the zone. That was Thursday, yesterday. The zones were published Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Okay. And the alerts that go out Sunday night will be based on these zones. The new zones will come out next Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. The Dow, here's where we opened. Ran up to the BBC. The pullback holds more often than not. So we consolidated for many hours. Remember, these are 30-minute candles. And then right here, blue and climbing turned to red and falling. And that took us below the BBC and gave us a leg and a retracement, resistance at red and falling. Took us down to the short target, as you can see, to the tick. And that's based on this right here, where red turned to blue. So we caught a bounce, and it failed pretty quick. Here's that 8:30 news, taking us all the way down to the lowest weekly trading zone this week for the Dow, 47,200/205. Red and falling has curled up underneath price, so we have that same situation. The black step line represents resistance overhead. Red and falling represents support below. On the Russell, this was the opening candle last night. It took us up. We got a lot of blue and climbing chasing price. When you have that much blue and climbing chasing price, the chance that you're going to trade through the BBC is greatly enhanced. We know the pullback holds more often than not. Okay? But again, with this much blue and climbing chasing price, you would say, yeah, this time we may trade through. We did, but then on the pullback, we had support times 2. The BBC and the weekly trading zone. That support bounced us into resistance. Remember, when blue and climbing is directly above price, that's potential resistance, typically because it's on its way to becoming red and falling. So that took us down through the BBC. At the zone, we found support, caught a bounce, but that ultimately failed. Took us to here, bounced us up to the black step line, and then we hit the short target. You'll notice right here where red turned to blue, that's where we hit the short target. Consolidated. Then the 8:30 news came out, ripped the markets apart. If you can believe it. Doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. It's what the market does. It's the reaction of the market that's what you got to believe, because that's what's truth. So whether you believe it or not, obviously many did. Now, these wicks sticking up are very bearish. The step line has crossed. If price can overcome the black step line, it's got a few areas of resistance, but it should try and work its way back to the BBC. All right, Michael's here, so when I come back, you can see the NQ found support right at the zone there, found resistance right at the zone there. But anyway, we'll talk about that when I come back. Right now, Michael's going to give us a recap of what happened this morning in the live training room, then do some live trading as time and the markets permit. And again, I'll be back, finish the recap, and wrap things up for the week with our good word for the day.
Excellent. All right.
Okay, it looks good.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, the 6th day of March, 2026. Now, if you have not taken a free trial with us, go ahead to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button right here. There's no credit card required for this trial. When you click on that, you'll be brought to the registration page. On this page, all that we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. Down here at the bottom, make sure you give us your TradingView login ID. Okay, once you give us that, then we can get your indicators indicating on your desktop for your trial. Today we had a pretty good day today. It started off rough though. We had a really rough start, but we ended up coming around and getting up to where we wanted to be. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today's the 6th day of March 2026. We're up 135 ticks on the NQ, 34 on the Russell, 36 on the YM, and 19 on the ES. That puts us at 1262.50 on the morning session. Mind you, we started out minus $300 and something a contract. Today it took 30 minutes and 18 trades because we had 4 stop outs. 30 minutes and 18 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $165 a contract, or $16.50 with 10. We took 42 trades with 4 stop outs today. So yesterday we had no stop outs. Today, 4. But we had them all right in the beginning, which is no good, as far as starting out the day goes. But then we got better throughout the day. We got much better throughout the day. I mean, we took the other 38 trades with no stop outs. I don't think it was actually 38. We had 18 there. We took the other 20 trades with no stop outs. Anyway, on the month now, we're at 7,230. That's actually for the week and the month so far. Over 5 business days, averaging $1,446 per contract. On the year, we're at $51,482. Over 42 business days, averaging $1,225 per contract per 2-hour business day. Now, the 2420 blueprint took a hit today. We did get the goal for the day, but it took us a half an hour to get it, right? Half an hour to get it. And so that puts us now on the year at 4.95 hours of trading. And if you were to quit trading when you get the goal for the day and add 1 contract per month and do everything exactly as I did, you'd be up $10,702.50 gross, trading 3 contracts right now. Now, there's no way that that could happen because getting the goal for the day, I had so much slippage in so many different ways. I had positive and negative slippage today. There was a lot of slippage today for some reason. If you were doing it with just 1 contract or 3 contracts, you wouldn't have had near as much slippage as I had. In either direction, I had positive and bullish. Bullish and bearish slippage. Most of it was bearish, but in the first 18 trades, I don't think only 1 actually gave me exactly what I was expecting, and it was in the pre-market. It was in the first couple of minutes before the prices, before the markets opened. But that is where we stand. Now let's get into the actual trades. Go here. Can shut those off now. They all work. Delete. 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 There. All right. I was just testing to make sure they work this morning. On the Russell, let's start out with that guy. And we started out pretty good on the Russell. We almost had the goal for the day at the beginning on the Russell. But go back there. We were so close to getting our goal at one point. We were just a couple of ticks away. If we didn't have the slippage in an ES trade, we slipped -4 ticks on one ES trade. Otherwise, we would have had to goal early on. But our first trade here on the Russell, we picked up 8 ticks. Okay, then this one over here, I think we picked up 15. They got us to 23. Then we stopped out, put us at -2. Then we stopped out again, put us at -27. And that was all in the first 17 minutes. Then we had a break even. Then we went from -27 to -5, -5 to -0, -0 to 14. And then we had one more big trade toward the end right there. We had a 20 tick trade that got us to 34. And that was it on the Russell. Okay, and right now we don't have anything on the Russell, but that was our morning on the Russell. So we were down 27 points. That's 27 ticks at one point. The YM, we only had a few trades on the YM, so there's not much to say about the YM, but we were up all day on the YM with the few trades that we did have. Okay. So we started out here on the YM with the 30 tick trade. Now, even that didn't have the goal for the day for us because we were so down on the ES. We didn't get the goal for the day on that 30 tick trade. But we had 30 ticks there. Then we had a break even somewhere, I think. And then we had a 6 tick trade right there. Just 36. And that was it with the YM. Now, it's not to say that there weren't any more YM trades. I just didn't take any. Okay. Let's go to the end in case we get one setting up now. And now we'll go to the ES. Control and back on that guy. What is it? 108. So we're making pretty good time here. Actually, the ES and the NQ had the most trades on. About the same amount on each one, I think. So they will take a few minutes. So this trade right here, I think that was the one. We were at +4 on that, +2 on that. I'm sorry, we were at +2. We ended up when it slipped us at the close, it slipped us -2 ticks. So we ended up with a -2. I know I put a break even on it because it should have been break even +2. But we ended up with -2 on that. And then we had a break even there. Then we ended up with -12 there, then -22 there. So we're way down there at that point. We're -22 there. We're -27 on the Russell. And we had to come back from that. So the next trade here on the ES, we picked up 10 ticks. That got us to -12. And then that should have been a break even, or maybe break even plus something. It ended up being a minus a tick. That got us to -13. And then that one there, we picked up 9 ticks, got us to 4. And then this one here was kind of an accidental trade. It was supposed to be a really big trade, but it only got us 1 tick, got us to -3. It looked like I got 12 ticks on that. It didn't end up being a valid trade. It wasn't a valid trade, but it looked like I got 9 ticks on that or something like that. It had to be in 1. Then we went from -3 to a break even. I think, yeah, break even there. Then went from 3 to 1. So we went from to 1 tick, and then 7 ticks to 8, 2 ticks to 10, break even, and then 9 ticks to 19. and break even, and then something here that I didn't write down. And that was it on the ES. So we ended up with plus 19 on the ES, actually a little bit more than plus 19. I don't know what that last trade was. And we don't have anything right now during the break. Okay, nothing yet during the break. All right, so the NQ now. So control back on that guy. All right. So here we are on the NQ, our first trade here on the NQ. Sorry, our first trade here on the NQ, we picked up 10 ticks. That was in the pre-market. At least I thought it was in the pre-market. But right there, we picked up 10 ticks on that very first trade. That was the only one in the beginning that gave me exactly what I was looking for. The next one, we got 5 ticks. That was supposed to be 10. The next one, we went to 22 ticks. That was supposed to be 10. The next one, we went to 28 ticks. That was supposed to be 10. So we got 10 on the first one. Then we slipped 5 on the second one. We slipped 3 on the third one. We slipped 6 on the fourth one. And then here we went from 28 to 37. So we only slipped 1 on that one. They went from 37 to 65. That, I think we slipped a few ticks on that too at the end of it. Then 65 to 69, so we slipped 6 ticks on that one. Then from 69 to 77, so we only slipped 2 ticks on that one. Then 77 to 78, I'm 77 to 88, so we got 11 ticks. I don't know what slippage we got there. And 88 to 99 was 11 ticks. I don't know about slippage there. Then I think both of those were positive ones, 1 tick, each one of those. They're supposed to be 10. And 88 to 99, so all of those were positive 1 tick slip. Then 99 to 115, that I don't know about. And after the 115, we went to 123 and then 135. So there's a couple of trades in there that I don't have pinned. And that is where we ended up on the morning session. Just a ton of slippage this morning. And it's positive and negative, but mostly negative. The positive ones were just 1 tick, it looks like. And the negative ones, well, they were between 9 and 3 ticks, it looked like. All right, so here we are. The markets are starting to move right now. And if we go here, the midpoint that I was looking for in the day's action, we're just about to get to it right here. Now, I was concerned this morning when the European markets were going to close. I didn't know what was going to happen with the US markets when the European markets closed. But right now, it looks like they're starting to gain some traction right here. And I was thinking we could turn around by the end of the session this morning because we did bounce. Well, we went 3 points lower than Tuesday's low today. You can see there's just a little tilt to the red right there. So we got just a little bit lower. In the scheme of things, though, it's pretty close on the overall range. So let's get back over here and here and here, and be ready to trade. No, I didn't do anything with the sheet yet for today. So today is the 60th day. It is 3/6, and carry this down, paste it, and carry this down, paste it, and this becomes a 60. And this, if we look at it right now, okay, we'll say 15 minutes. I'll get in there and start trading. All right, we don't have any trades right now. It's pretty close, but not quite. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Anything that we have going on here? Okay. So let's see. This tab is sleeping to save resources. That one is too. That one's not. That one's not. This was discarded to save resources. That one's sleeping. Interesting, I never noticed that before. Another thing I never noticed before is if you put an alert on, it puts a little alarm next to the name. Okay, it done that earlier. They have an alarm on that. Nope, I deleted all those. That's right. All right, so we don't have a trade here. We don't have a trade here. We don't have a trade here. We're pretty close to a trade here on the YM. I'm on the ES. I was got a low here, 75, 75. So 77, 75 would be a trade on that. And up close at 77, 75 would be a long trade. And there we are, our first trade of the session. It filled exactly right. It should get all the way up here to 82. That's where it should go. Nope, it just went straight down and stopped us out. Minus 10 ticks. Okay, let's go put that in here. ES, right here, minus 10. And this is a 1. That's a 1. Okay. That was a quick stop out for us right there. It was nice the way the trade came together, though. We had time to put it on, get everything ready. It just did not go in our favor. Makes me wonder if this right here, what I was just showing you a second ago, we're getting up to the midpoint, which is what I thought we're going to try to get up to. And it's failing at the midpoint. Oh, actually, yeah, right here was the midpoint. And it did just get up to that a minute ago. 86.25. Right, just about anyway. All right. Well, we don't have a follow trade yet. It's 86.25. No, 80.50. 86.25 is where I think it's going to go. And even though it just stopped us out pretty hard right there, the DOM is still suggesting it's going to get up to 82 to begin with, and then 95. Okay. Oops, my mic was off. I was saying, does anybody have any questions about all this stuff at this juncture? All right, the NQ needs an up close here. The ES is almost there, but the NQ definitely needed an up close. Still needs an up close. Okay, and the ES. Well, the ES. Yeah. We didn't do that. All right. There we go. Now over here, the ES was just. What the heck is going on? Oh, okay, I see. There's the up close on the NQ. Here's that one. Okay, hasn't gone enough to get the stop bumped yet. And here's the ES one that hasn't gone enough to bump the stop yet either. We didn't get one on the other ones yet. The ES is now starting to run. I'm going to lock in a couple on the ES, and we just got something on the NQ. It should have been 10 ticks. What it ended up being. Okay, so we got a couple on the ES, and we should have gotten 10 on the NQ. Pretty sure. Let's go see what they say. NQ the wrong way again. NQ was 10. Okay, so the NQ was 10 and the ES was a couple. Let's go back here. This is now -8. This is 10. And this becomes 3. Okay, it's a little better. And then I'll get back in here. The YM needs an up close. The Russell doesn't matter. The ES doesn't matter. The NQ doesn't matter. They didn't finish the cycle. That didn't finish the cycle. That didn't finish the cycle. That didn't finish the cycle. But the YM did. So an up close here on the YM is going to be a long trade. Okay. And there's the up close on the YM. And that's going to go 10 ticks into profit to bump it to +5. It's going to get up to 53 and it'll bump to +5 is what it should do, I think. Right, we've now gone full cycle on both of these guys. So we could end up with trades there again in a minute, a couple of bars off. And the YM has a 25 tick stop on it, and it just stopped out, -25. Okay. Put that in. This is YM minus 4. It's like starting the day all over again. All right, so we flipped a YBR here. We're going to flip it there. Looks like we could flip it everywhere. Let's see. Flipping it on the NQ now. The ES and the NQ will both flip the YBR down. We almost have a trade here on the NQ. It needs to hit the mid-band to give us the down close. The ES is not really a trade here. It didn't hit the mid-band. Now we've hit it on the NQ, but it's 10 points off the top of the bar, and the top of the bar is at, say, 375, so 63. Oh, there it is right there. Okay, I can always, I'm already short. I just shorted it right here. Okay, so we're short the NQ. It's got to go 16 ticks into profit to bump it to +10. There it is. And we'll see where it goes from there. All right. Let's not go anywhere from there. The ES needs an up close followed by a down close. The YM and the Russell both need down closes followed by up closes. The ES didn't end up being a trade. It's being 20. That's 5. Oops, 5. Go back here. Need an up close now on the YM. Up close on the YM would be a long trade. While everything else is going short. It's a trade. Here it is. Do what the charts say. What do I know? Watch the ES for the down close. Watch the NQ for the down close. And the YM's got the up close. So this is going to go 10 ticks into profit. It's going to get up to right there to bump the stop. Almost got there. Nope. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so I had my order on in the wrong place on the ES. I'm going to lock 1 tick in on that. I got 10 ticks on the NQ, and I just stopped out again on the YM. So I got 1 tick. 1 tick on the ES. 10 more here. And minus another 25 there. 3 more trades. 1 more stop. We need a big trade here. What time is it? 125, 126. We need a big trade here on the ES, on the Russell, on the one. The NQ is really going to be the big one, I think. The ES could give us a nice trade right now. It is a short right now. And my stop is +1, and it just took me out +1. Sorry, I didn't have time to bring it over. The NQ is not a trade right now. It needs to pull back up into the mid band and then short off of that. Should be 6. That's wrong. I'm in the wrong part of this, I think. No, that's right. I just did that wrong last time. Okay. What am I looking at? I haven't done any Russell trades yet, right? -50 there, +30 there, -6 there. 6 trades. We had 2 stop outs. Didn't we? I think so. All right, the ES has another short right here. Let's bring it over to show you. Just give me a break even. Somehow screwed that up. Oh, I was entering in the wrong place. Okay. Okay. Was I? No, that was right. Okay. So right now we are -50 on the YM. I did have one nice 30-tick trade earlier on the YM. It looks like things are really starting to turn here. We need an up close followed by a down close on the ES. We're at the mid band, but we should get into the overbought. This is not a trade on the Russell. Not a trade on the ES. Not a trade on the NQ. We only have a minute and a half left, so we're going to need a big trade here to get positive on the day, on this session. What could happen? We need up closes on both of these, followed by down closes on both of those. Didn't get the up closes on either one. This is kind of what the morning started out like. How many stop outs did I get? I think I got more than 2. I got 2 on the. I got 1 on the ES, right? And 2 on the M. This should be a 3. I got 2 on the YM and 1 on the ES. Those are the stop outs that I had. So, looking for a pullback here. Let's see if we can get positive. I don't think we're going to have enough time. I think we're running out of time. Could happen. Could get 2 trades here. We need an up close on this one and then a down close. Might need 2 up closes on this one. There's one we're in the overbought, but it's not close enough to mid-band. Now the ES is pretty close right here. We just need a down close on the ES. So we got to hit the mid-band and have the down close on the NQ. The ES is just a down close would do it. We need a big trade. There it is. We need a big trade. There it is. And it was a break even. Didn't do it for us on the ES. And it's not going to do it for us on the NQ. And not going to do it on the YM. And it's not going to do it on the Russell. So we're going to have a white day today. Okay, 1 more trade here. It's 8 trades. So 62% of our trades today. Oof, that's rough. But that explains why we're negative. We ended up with a negative balance today. But all things said, in the last 60 sessions, we're averaging $141 per session in 16 minutes per session. So that's pretty good. That's with 1 contract, $141 with 1 contract over 16-minute average per session. Let's just go look and see if anything else triggered in here. Nope. All right. Well, let me say this. If you haven't taken a free trial with us, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required. Click on that. It's going to bring you to the registration page. Just fill out the page. Down at the bottom, all we ask for is your TradingView login ID. Okay? Make sure you give us that. Name, email, phone number, all that. But the important thing is the TradingView login ID. So we get the indicators indicating on your desktop. With that, I can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona in Studio A overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne is ready.
Yes, sir. Recap of the morning session.
It was a challenge this morning. It took 30 minutes and 18 trades to get to $1,650.
Way to hang in there. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Let's pick up where we left off. Made it all the way to the NQ. Okay, we covered the ES, the Dow, the Russell in granular detail. So if you missed any part of today's broadcast, when I sign off, you can go to youtube.com/CFRN and you can watch all of today's broadcast in its entirety. Here's where we opened last night, and remember, the targets that you see, those are the CTAs. All of our traders had those targets 5 minutes before the market opened last night, 5:55 p.m. Eastern. So initially we make a run right up to the weekly trading zone, which we expect to be resistance, and it was. Resistance sends the market looking for support, which it found at blue and climbing and the step line. When the step line gets directly below price, that can become potential support. So we really had support times 2. And that took us right up to the long target, which was this high from yesterday. Just, again, simply market structure. And then, as we do 70% of the time when price encounters a zone, we consolidated for hours this time at the weekly trading zone. And then blue and climbing turned to red and falling. That took us below the BBC. And we found support at the weekly trading zone. Remember, the weekly zones are published every Monday morning, 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once they're published Monday morning, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. And again, as happens 70% of the time, we consolidated at the weekly trading zone. And then we made the drop right here to the CTA short target, just based off this right here, where red turned to blue. We consolidated at the target, and then off that 8:30 news this morning, we dropped right to the zone, to the tick. Yeah, actually we spiked it a little bit, consolidated, the black step line crossed red and falling, and as typically happens, price retraced to the BBC. And the pullback held, and it held, and it held, and it held. And on this hold, it sent price down. So resistance will always send the market looking for support. So it found support at blue and climbing. Obviously, red and falling is bearish. Blue and climbing is bullish. That pushed us back up to the BBC again. Once again, the pullback held. And we're sitting right on top of the black step line. That's potential support. If we get through it, then we got support times 2 here. We got the weekly trading zone and blue and climbing. If price trades through those, you then have potential resistance right here, and then right here, and then the zone. Crude oil, the rocket ship. We've been well above the highest weekly zone for days. That happens occasionally. We all know the reason. It's a four-letter word, Iran. So, we opened here. This was the opening candle. See, we had a leg and a retracement. Okay, this right here, this was the final candle from yesterday. Then this was the first candle of the Friday session, 6 p.m. Eastern last night. So leg retracement, the pullback held. Every one of these candles is touching the BBC. As long as it's touching, it held. Then we get a little leg and a little retracement, and that pullback holds. And then we come just shy of the long target. Put in a little doji there, which could have signaled a deeper retracement, but the step line in blue and climbing caught it, pushed us right up to the long target. Got above the long target, and then we pulled back, and the top side of the long target, as often does, served as good support. And that sent us for a leg and a retracement, and a leg and a retracement. A leg, and we just had a pretty decent retracement. Now, notice that blue and climbing is directly below price, so they can act as support. If price trades through blue and climbing and through the black step line, then they become potential resistance. Obviously, the low of this candle is potential support. You've then got potential support here. And then right here, just above the BBC. So, no doubt we will close the week out this week above the highest weekly trading zone. Over 16 years, it's happened a few times. A handful, you ask? Probably 2 handfuls. But if you multiply 16 times 52 weeks in a year, that's a long time. A lot of weeks. Gold. Here was the open last night. We're below the BBC, but blue and climbing provided support that sent us up to the zone. We spiked it a little bit, pulled back, hit it again, hit it again, hit it again. Then we come back to the BBC. Remember, resistance always sends a market looking for support. And that support held until this candle right here. Notice the top of that candle touched red and falling, which is resistance. And we know the pullback holds more often than not, but when you have that much red and falling chasing price, that's when it increases the probability that price will trade through. So we traded through, and then the pullback from below held, which sent us here. Okay, not necessarily an area I would have looked for support, but that's where buyers chose to come in. Drove it up to the BBC, resistance, the pullback L. That sent us down pretty close to the short target, but we never actually hit it. Then red and falling turned to blue and climbing. We get above the BBC. We hit the zone. We trade through the zone. Now the long target is based off this bearish cross right here. Typically that will be good resistance, and if you were watching it live in real time as it happened, it's quite possible there may have been a struggle getting through that area. But by the time the 30-minute candle had closed, we had reached all the way up here, which is this high right here from yesterday. You see that perfect alignment? And then we closed that 30-minute candle right at the top of this candle right here. See that? Okay. All right. So resistance sends the market looking for support, which it found at the zone and the BBC. Not the BBC, but blue and climbing. And that has now pushed us back up to the long target at 51.65. Now the step line has crossed blue and climbing. So the resistance we find here could very well send us not only back to the zone, but back to the BBC. If we trade through the long target and we trade through blue and climbing, then of course you have potential resistance here, 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 and here. Simple market structure. One second. All right. So price is trying to push through that long target. Just keep in mind these areas where you're likely to find potential resistance. Okay. Last but not least, silver. Here's where we opened last night. We made a run at the long target. We didn't quite get there on the first attempt. Remember, you only need 2 pennies to get your goal for the day in silver. Now this resistance, okay, the target obviously is based off the bearish cross. Okay, but this high right here is basically this high right here. Okay, that resistance sent us back to support at the BBC. The pullback held and holds more often than not. So then we get a leg that takes us through the long target. And then we run into resistance, which pushes us back down to the top side of the long target, which becomes good support. So we catch a bounce. That takes us up to this high from yesterday. See that? And blue and climbing turns to red and falling. We get back below the long target. Down we go. And is this area right here an area I would have particularly anticipated support? No. But remember, 20% of the time or less, the market is going to do something different than what you anticipate as you develop your ability to read the chart. Red and falling turns to blue and climbing, puts us back above the long target, takes us up to this high here, okay, which fails to take out that high by just a little bit. It indicates a little weakness. Resistance sends price back to support. You've got support times 2 here. The top side of the long target and the BBC. Once again, the pullback held. Now trying to climb again. We got a high. We got 2 lower highs right there. Basically a double top. So if silver does continue to rise, watch 85.10 as potential resistance. Watch 85.33 as potential resistance. Then 85.45, then 85.75, and then the zone, 86.16/86.17. One last look at the daily chart. Okay, we are still well off the low of the session. Remember, we took out Tuesday's low by 3 points. Buyers came in. We had a huge red candle all the way down. But institutional traders buying the dip have driven it up. But the big question is, how committed are they? Will they hold these positions over the weekend? You'll find the answer as we go into the close. Do we sell off going into the close and head back to the low of the day? Or do we in fact head back up? Where's the resistance? Well, first, where we opened last night, just above that, the 24% fib extension. The high of the session, red and falling, the BBC, and then yesterday's high, which was exactly at the 38% fib extension. Pretty much to the tick. And again, looking from October's highs to November's lows, what have we done? We're in the third month now, fourth month. Yes, we've gone up and down and up and down and up and down as markets do. Leg, retrace, leg, retrace. But we've gone sideways, and the last 13 days has certainly given us a downside bias. Got to watch this area very closely. 24% retracement on the daily chart. We have not seen that, I think, in almost a year. If we drop that far, it should give us a good bounce. Unfortunately, I think that bounce may be short-lived if we get there. Now, as things change on the global stage, in other words, even the left side of the aisle has to admit that we had a successful campaign in Iran. I know, hell freezing over. Yeah, maybe it doesn't happen. I don't know. But we'll see. Okay? Remember, as we head into the midterms, I'm just going to tell you the truth. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. The truth of the matter is, the Democrats who hate Trump with every fiber of their being, they don't know why. It's just the party line. Just like when we were growing up, we were taught to hate communism. But the most recent polls show that more and more Americans want socialism. And socialism, which every socialist experiment in history has failed, it's just a stepping stone to communism. Now, one day every knee will bow. My knee will always bow to God, but somebody's knee is going to bow to Russia, to Putin, or to Xi. So, you will be persecuted for my name's sake. And don't forget the ceremony coming up on either the 17th of this month or the 17th of May. President Trump is going to officially rededicate our nation back to God. That's going to be a big day. When I was on break just now, I should have checked the calendar so I could give you the correct month, but at least I know it's the 17th. I remember that much. It's a quick Google away. You can find out. All right, to become a member, just email Valerie, support@cfrn.net. Let her know you want to become a member. She'll send you all the information you need to get signed up. Once you become a passport member, or a passport holder, you'll have access to everything we offer. Let's wrap this week up with our good word for the day. Living in the promised land. 1 Corinthians 10:11. These things happen to them as examples for us. Egypt represents our days in bondage to sin. Then Jesus liberated us and gave us a new life. Our promised land isn't a physical territory, it's a spiritual reality. It's not real estate, but a real state of heart and mind. It's a life in which we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us. Romans 8:37. A life in which we do not lose heart. 2 Corinthians 4:16. A life in which we are exceedingly joyful in all our tribulation. 2 Corinthians 7:4. Where we are anxious for nothing. Philippians 4:6. Where we are praying always. Ephesians 6:18. And a life in which we do all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through Him. Colossians 3:17. Max Lucado wrote, in Canaan, we win more often than we lose. Forgive as quickly as we are offended, and give as abundantly as we receive. We serve out of our giftedness and delight in our assignments. We may stumble, but we do not collapse. We may struggle, but we defy despair. We boast only in Christ, trust only in God, and lean wholly on His power. We enjoy abundant fruit and increasing faith. Canaan symbolizes the victory we can have today, and God invites us to enter it. There's only one condition. We must turn our backs on wilderness living. Paul wrote this in 1 Peter 2:9. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, His own special people, that you may proclaim the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. And that's our good word for today and for the week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, There is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.